Hello, and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. Today, it's my pleasure to speak with Andrew Williams. Andrew is the Director of Product Engagement with Pride Industries. Pride, as you're about to learn, is a very interesting company that for whom EMS is just one of the services. But they are very unique in both the mission of the overall company and then also as an EMS company. So I'm glad, Andrew, that you've agreed to take some time to kind of share the story with us and tell us all about Pride. So thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's begin kind of the big picture. Pride Industries. Tell us about the company, the mission, the history.
So Pride Industries is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to create employment opportunities for people with disabilities or other barriers to employment, such as disabled veterans entering the civilian environment or trafficking survivors, foster youth that are exiting foster youth programs, etc. We are about 4,700 employees now, and about half have some form of a documented disability. We operate in 17 different states across the country. So we're a very large company. The EMS line of business, we represent about 180 to 200 employees of that 4,700. So very small piece in the grand scale of who we are. But manufacturing and logistics services, which is the department or division that we fall under, I think we're about 15 to 20% of Pride as a whole. A good portion of our business is integrated facility services, where we're doing anything from janitorial, custodial, landscaping, grounds maintenance, HVAC maintenance, fleet vehicle maintenance, all across the country in military bases, airports, just a random variety of different commercial and government buildings, Department of Defense, etc. So very, as our former CEO used to say, we're a complex carbohydrate. There are a lot of facets to who we are, but at the end of the day, our mission to create those employment opportunities, it's about finding skill sets that people with disabilities have, and matching them to a position that's open and needs somebody to perform it. And in electronics manufacturing, on our production floor, we're about 100 employees on our production floor, and a third of them have some form of a documented disability, and they perform extremely well in those roles because we have matched them, their skill sets, to a position or a role on our floor where those skill sets will allow them to flourish. And we get to see that and have it happen every day. So we're very proud of that. Historically, Pride itself was started in the basement of a church in 1966, just up the road in Auburn, California. We're in Roseville, California, is our corporate site. So long time company, and the electronics manufacturing division, I think, was started in the late 90s, if I remember correctly. I've been here for 19 years here in electronics manufacturing, at our corporate site that was built in 2000. And that's where the electronics manufacturing services are performed today. And it's our only location that is currently performing electronics manufacturing services. We do have other divisions of the manufacturing and logistics services that are nearby that are performing contract packaging and fulfillment, logistics services, pick, pack, ship type services, etc. That all happens in Northern California, and or literally just up the road, we have a very large warehouse where we're performing a lot of those fulfillment services, bringing in raw material from the globe and repackaging or distributing it back out for our customers.
Okay. Things that I'd like to follow up on. First of all, the funding. You say as a nonprofit, but you also get paid for services. So explain kind of and you explained to me before there was kind of a transition in that model over the years as well.
Yeah, so a lot of our funding, you go back probably 10 years or more ago, there was a good portion of funding that kind of came in through some of the programs for people with disabilities and to support those. That's changed over the years. But the biggest change early on in the company, our former CEO realized that having a pure donation-based model for the company wasn't going to allow the company to really be what it is today. And so he really tried to push for that model that was, hey, we need to operate as a business. Not as a nonprofit. We need to operate as a for-profit business with the nonprofit model. And so by doing that, trying to separate becoming just a straight donation business, but actually let's perform well with what we do to where we're profitable, and those profits just go right back into the company. And so by switching to that model, it's allowed Pride to grow, become even more excellent in a lot of our programs and contracts that we have across the country. Some of our contracts that we do on military bases, we are phenomenal with how we conduct those because we figured out how to be best at what we do. And then we incorporate our mission basically joined at the hip with being excellent at what we do. In electronics manufacturing in California, it used to be some of our funding for our employees with disabilities would come from the state, and some of those salaries may have been prorated based upon somebody's disability. That's over the past 10 years or so, that's all changed. It was probably close to 10 years ago that all employees have to earn a minimum wage in California, regardless of what program or whatever that they're part of. And a lot of the funding that's used that would come from the state or other agencies really only pays for the support services for counselors and job coaches, et cetera, for those services. So our employees that are in electronics manufacturing, they are part of our workforce. So their salary has to be paid for out of our regular P&L, et cetera. And so they are, we've always felt that they are truly part of the whole team. There's no difference. And so in a lot of ways, we're no difference for us. But at the same time, it makes it a little harder from a financial perspective. So again, it just means we have to be better at what we do so we can continue with our mission. And that's really what we strive for, is being better at making our profits for our different lines of business so that we can continue our mission. And we're happy to say that on our production floor in electronics manufacturing, that a third of our workforce have some form of a documented disability. Try to find another EMS company of our size that can say that same thing. You won't find them. And so that's definitely for me personally, that's definitely a benefit of something I get to come to work every day, is I get to see that joy of providing somebody a job who would otherwise not have one if it wasn't for what we do.
And that's the other issue I wanted to follow up with. And you said it before. You said it before the interview began too. That you have to engage with the person to find out what their skills are, so that to allow them to thrive. And as I hear you saying that, I also think, isn't that the job of management across any company, right? Right? Anybody who comes in, you got to figure out, and we have to, even as individuals, we got to figure out where our role is and what's going to allow us to thrive in life. But it's a little bit different here. But the overall mission is one of helping people to do better.
Exactly. And so before I came to Pride, I worked at a couple other companies as an engineer, and developing a process for your assembly operators. It's the same. Coming here to Pride, it's still the same. It's just there's a slightly different facet to some of your assembly operators that you may have to, take into consideration. A good example is a number of years ago, we had an employee that was colorblind. So our work instructions for our hand insert line, they have color-coded blocks that match to the color-coded emblems that are on the bins that have the parts. Obviously, that employee was going to have some struggling if we continued with that process. So we changed how we did the color coding blocks so that they had patterns to them as well. So that red label was actually a red checkered box label. And so either he or any of our other employees could still use that exact process, but it made him successful. So he was now able to perform a position that he was fully capable of, but we just had to make a slight tweak to how we developed that process. And so again, it comes back to how do you match that person's skills to an open position or a position that's needed. And if that means making a slight tweak or adjustment to the process from an engineering perspective, well, that's what you do. Um, from a pride perspective, it's something that we do every single day. We make sure that everybody's given every opportunity possible to allow, get their skill sets to flourish for themselves, because that's how they're going to benefit a company. And if it means that we make a slight tweak to our manufacturing process, that's a solution that we're going to engineer. And we have several solutions that we've developed over the years that may have been created for somebody with a disability, but actually benefited the entire process and everybody in that process. So looking at, okay, well, why don't other companies do this more? It's like, well, they just got to take that first step and look at that process from a slightly different perspective.
So, I know that Pride is kind of as a training company, you prepare people to work in the industries, but you also, as you said before, somebody can have a career within Pride too. They don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to be trained there and go elsewhere. So, speak to kind of your recruiting process and, how do you engage to get people with disabilities or with other barriers to employment?
Yeah. So our workforce inclusion department is the group that is bringing in all of our people with disabilities or other barriers. So they work with regional type groups that have these candidates that need some avenue for employment, or working with a foster youth program through the area, or even maybe a program at a community college that they may have a program for people with disabilities. And so there are candidates that are coming out of the program with certain types of courses that they've taken to kind of strengthen their ability to be a candidate, but they still need some form of support once they get into a company. Unfortunately, even in this day and age, not every company has all of the different support functions that may be required for somebody to get them started. So a lot of those employees that will start here at Pride, we have all those support services as that's just part of what we do. So we can bring those employees in, put them into different positions wherever in the company, give them skill sets, give them job skills that are above what they currently have, as well as providing them support in whatever manner they need to allow them to have, gainful employment that's not otherwise easy for them to find. And there are many cases where those employees, we either provide the avenue or they create the avenue on their own to go get a job with another company. A good example is we do have a lot of employees that we may, in an external job setup, may provide an opening or a position for them at like a CVS pharmacy, let's say as an example. So they're there with Pride is supporting them in that role. When as they're working there, they're learning job skills specific to that environment and everything. And our goal would eventually be that that CVS location is going to say, hey, you know what? This person is really performing above what we would have ever thought of. Let's actually hire them as an employee now that we've learned how to, manage them as an employee with Pride support, getting that off the ground. And so maybe they'll leave Pride and become a direct employee. We have several people that I know of in particular that have left Pride to take, what some may, consider, for lack of a better word, a normal job, because they were given that opportunity to be recognized for their skill sets, not for their disability. And that's really what it comes down to, is how do you give somebody that opportunity? Because the skill sets are there, you just have to look past that disability. Because that's not what defines those employees. But a lot of companies, they can't see that nowadays.
So is in that situation, they take it over and they assume the responsibility and the
Mhm.
support required, or does Pride stay engaged, or is there a whole process to kind of help coach somebody like a CVS in your example for the type of support that's required?
It'll normally be set up as a program, so they may have a job coach assigned to them for 3 or 6 months, and at the end of that, whatever time period is, maybe there's an agreement with CVS that, hey, at that point, we're going to take that person and assign them somewhere else because that time frame is up, or that's maybe set up as like an internship to where CVS can hire them after a certain point, once they see that that actually works well. I'm not 100% sure how all those details work with that, but I get to hear of all the different successes where we have had somebody at a different site or location with a company, and then now they've left Pride and they actually are an employee of that company, who we've been able to kind of educate to some degree, to recognize those skills.
Okay. Let's get into the EMS piece of the business. I
Mhm.
know it, like you said, it's one facility there in Roseville. It's 180 people or so. You are the director of product engagement there. What does a director of product engagement at Pride Industries do?
Yeah, so I've been with Pride for 19 years. So I was started as an engineer, was engineering manager for a little over 10 years. So I have a wealth of knowledge about process and how to build and basically everything about contract manufacturing. So the role that I'm in now, almost a year, I work with our sales team as they're engaging with leads, who are we're going after for business or have come to us for business. And so I work with their data, their bombs, drawings, etc. Look at who they are as a company. What do they really need for a solution? So I'm kind of like a solutions architect to make sure they're a good fit for Pride. Figure out how we're internally going to facilitate process or real estate or whatever it may be internally to be able to provide that solution, and also educate customers in some aspect of what our capabilities are, what type of technologies do we have internally to meet their needs, et cetera, to make sure they also agree that we're a good fit. And then once that happens, I kind of manage or drive some of the internal quoting and NPI processes to make sure that we're going to be successful with bringing them on board, turning that lead into a prospect, is kind of really what I'm doing, is fostering that prospect so that the account management and engineering team and purchasing team can convert them into a partner, because that's the ultimate goal of all of our customers here, is we want them to be a partner with us, not just a customer. The customer supplier relationship is not something we're a fan of. We want our customers to be a partner. We want them to view us as an extension of their manufacturing facility. That's how we want to operate. That enables us to be a much stronger solution for our customers.
Okay. And so you have the one facility, SMT lines. What's the full scope of services you provide there?
So in electronics manufacturing, obviously we do PCBA manufacturing, SMT and through-hole, lead-free, and tin lead processes. We do cable assembly. We have a large cable assembly area, a lot of different crimping presses, cut strip machines, etc. Kitting, we have a lot of processes for just kitting, developing hardware kits or whatever it may be for different products. Class two medical device manufacturing. So we have several medical devices that we manufacture here in the facility. And then just in general, a lot of different logistics that surround each of those. So RMA support, pick, pack, ship for accessories, et cetera, kind of circling all around each of those different functions. And in a lot of ways, our PCBAs, cables, or the medical devices, they're electromechanical manufacturing. So taking the PCBAs and cables that we're building and basically converting them to a finished product. And whether it be we are shipping sub-assemblies or completed assemblies to our customer, or to, in some cases, we actually are building the finished product all the way through packaging to where we ship to we don't ship to our customers, we ship to their customers. So we have some instances where our customers never see their product, where we do everything from end to end. And most of our business is turnkey, but we also still support consigned as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was going to ask about that. And talk to the customer base. Is it in particular? You mentioned medical. I know that one of the name companies that I've seen publicly associated with you is HP in the past. So, what type of products, what type of industry sectors are you supporting?
So we're kind of all over. We support automotive industry, the industrial industry, oil and gas, et cetera, temperature monitoring, humidity monitoring, devices, etc. We do have some devices that go into the educational industry. We have products that are obviously class 2 medical products that end up in hospitals as well as rehabilitation environments, whether it be maybe with a sports team or in a rehabilitation office. We have kitting that goes into networking hardware, security hardware, cable assemblies that are a wide variety of solutions there, a lot of automotive based product. And then more recently, in the past few years, we've been working on and related to our ITAR registration and kind of trying to foster that growth of that side of what we do. So we have a few customers, obviously, in the Department of Defense, aerospace, military type applications. And so that's where we're also doing a lot of effort there right now in that side of our business and trying to grow that side as well. And we are currently in process of getting our AS9100 certification as well. So that should be able to close that out this year as well.
Okay, excellent. Now I know, I've known of Pride for many years, but I know and I used to always say when I spoke to the industry that, you're a for-profit industry except for one, and that was Pride, right? So,
Right.
but you're not really a nonprofit EMS because you're still charging for services, and so speak to that element of it as well.
Yeah, a big misunderstanding about nonprofit is that you don't make a profit. It's like, no, that's not true. We obviously have to make a profit to survive, but our profits go right back into the company to grow our mission. So that's the key part of it. And at the end of the day, the EMS division of Pride, we operate as a for-profit EMS, but inside the umbrella of a nonprofit. So we have our mission, we have everything that we execute. Some of our P&L sheet might look different than another company's because we are a nonprofit, but we get to leverage any of our profits come right back into our company to support our growth and more opportunities for employees, as opposed to supporting shareholders, as an example. And then the kind of piece to that is that even though we're very small and less than 200 people, because we're a portion of a very large company, we get to leverage that stronger, much larger corporate structure of HR, payroll, executive team, et cetera. We have that strength of a 4,700 employee company that is supporting a 180 to 200 employee company. So that's one of our advantages there. But like I said, at the end of the day, our customers want the same thing from us as any other customer. It's on-time delivery, quality, and cost. That's what it comes down to. So that's what we strive for. That's what we have to prove ourselves with all of our customers. The benefit that we provide is that we market ourselves as the socially responsible vendor of choice, because that's really what we're all about. Is yes, we're going to do everything to meet cost, on-time delivery, and quality. But we have a mission, and a lot of our customers, they value that our mission means that we're not just out to make a buck, but that we really want to strive to meet those other three, so that we can actually grow our mission and grow the company to provide more opportunities for people with disabilities. So that's a huge benefit to our customers who are especially have certain ESG goals or whatever. But for me personally, every day, that's something that, at the end of the day, when I go home, I know I made a difference in somebody's life because of doing what I do to keep the company, growing and rolling. Somebody has a job who otherwise wouldn't have one. And
No,
so
exactly.
that's the huge benefit for me personally as well.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. That's excellent. So tell me, as people watch this and want to learn more, what do you advise? I know that you got a great website with a lot of information. I know I read in the IPC community magazine here from that was distributed over at Apex. There was a good story about pride within that. But people who want to get involved, support, maybe leverage the benefits of you, how should they go about that?
Definitely check out our website. There's a lot of great information about everything that we do and how we're tied to different organizations or whatever, all of our different lines of business that we support. So even if an EMS company may not have anything tied to, or an OEM or whatever, may not have something tied to us, why they're going to come to us for an EMS. But take a look at other stuff that we're doing because you may be interested in other things that we're doing. Good, follow us on LinkedIn, etc. If you know somebody that has a disability that is having trouble finding gainful employment, or a disabled veteran or whatever, we have an I am able helpline that they can call, and we will help find opportunities for those employees, especially if they're in an area where we have a location that we have jobs. And then we also have our Pride Foundation is kind of the sister organization of Pride that allows us to accept donations and everything that can funnel back into programs and support that we do with Pride to create those opportunities. That's another thing too. It's on our website. But specifically for electronics manufacturing, if you on our website, prideindustries.com, but prideindustries.com/EMS, you'll see specifically the EMS page, and the contact information on there will come straight into the internal team. And of course, people are welcome to reach out to me through LinkedIn or directly through email or whichever. We Pride loves to talk about what we do because we are definitely a different company, and from an EMS perspective, we're very different. To my knowledge, we are the only IPC member that is nonprofit. So that's kind of an interesting stat to look at from when you look at electronics manufacturing,
Yeah.
yeah, I think right now we are the only a nonprofit member.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Um, Andrew, this has been fantastic. I'm glad you gave some time here to tell the story and share what's happening within Pride as a whole, but also with the EMS, which has some relevance to our audience. And I appreciated your comment there. Even beyond EMS, look at the other supportive services because a lot of companies
Yeah,
could be leveraging those as well.
exactly.
Uh, so thank you for your time. Keep up the good work, and hopefully we can stay connected and talk again in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for allowing me the time and opportunity, and I greatly appreciate being able to get the word out and talk about who we are.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. All right.